Cavalier faithful, welcome back on in Two Cavs Encapsulated. It's Jeffrey, it's Justin, it's Logan down below. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribing. Cavs content for the regular season coming to an end. Handful of games left. We're going to talk about predictions. We're going to talk about the Eastern Conference standings. And then I got some stuff to bring up about the X-Bird app. So it should be an interesting episode. Make sure you hang out until the end to hear all of our thoughts. And yeah, we want to hear how you guys are feeling about this Cavalier squad. It's somewhat of a frustrating week of hoops. 2 losses to the Heat, a loss to the Timberwolves, and then finally picking up a game last night against the Hornets. But that kind of evens out the landscape here in the Eastern Conference, a really competitive conference for the most part, in my opinion. Logan, I want to start with you. We're going to talk about it every week, every Monday or Tuesday until, the final seeding is set. Let's do an updated, where do you think we're going to finish seeding-wise, and who do you think we will play? Not who do you want to play, but who do you think will play right now at this juncture?
No, first of all, I want to correct you. We took 1 loss to the Heat and 1 ass beating to the Heat. It was not pretty. That game had me down in the dumps.
Already forgot about that game.
Yeah, had me down in the dumps. So we were fed the Hornets the very next night, thank God. So yep. I can get through this podcast okay. Talking about the Cavaliers, we have no idea when guys are going to get back. Evan Mobley showed up. I didn't even know he was coming back. I even texted that to Jeffrey.
We'll talk about that.
4's on the floor. Okay, got it. We don't really know what Donovan's going to do. I haven't heard a peep about Strus in a long time. So with that being
apparently questionable for tomorrow.
I think we fall to 4. I think we finish the season as a 4 seed. When you look at the Pacers and Magic, the Pacers are one of those weird teams that they can look like, because they're an offensive squad. They're a team that can outscore you, but if they're not outscoring you, they're overall just kind of average. Or it could be the Magic. I think it's the Magic or the Pacers in our first round matchup. Is there a world where the Magic stay hot? They're only a game and a half back of us for third, and all of a sudden it's a rematch with the Knicks, potentially as us as the lower seed at the 5 seed? Yeah, that'd be a really disappointing finish to the season. The Cavaliers have not been good in the second half of the season. Injuries be damned, we've been garbage as a basketball team. That being said, the playoffs is all that matters. So I'm not going to sit here and harp on it or get angry about it, because it is what it is. We're not playing well. We're playing fine. And my hope, honestly, for the Cavaliers is to just play 500 ball the rest of the way. That's kind of the point I've gotten to. We're going to find out a lot of things about this team in the playoffs. I do think we fall to 4, though.
Honestly, I think the predicament, if you want to use that word, that you see the Cavs in right now, just shows how spoiled we were. Both LeBron stints, I think, obviously, definitely more in this, second trip around with us, of just like always being one of the best teams in the East, playing good basketball. Great basketball all year long. It kind of just shows that how consistent you have to be in the regular season. And I get it. We trash the regular season all the time. It's a competitive hoops, not really for the most part. Now down to the end, though, yeah, you'll see teams start trying. They want to make the play-in. They want to make a better playoff seed, what may have you. But I just think it shows like how hard it is to be one of the better teams in the league all year long, because we are a team who literally went on a 20-game stretch where we won how many games out of it? 17, 18, 19 games? 18-2. And you're like telling me that we could be in danger of not even having a home playoff series. And yeah, there's 19 factors. There's injuries.
I'm not even sitting here like mad at the Cavs. I just think people need to realize how good the NBA is. Like it doesn't, like, I did sit here and say we're playing like garbage. I did. I'm not going to act like I didn't. But I think the frustration grows because there's more pressure on each and every game. So anytime you lose a random game to a Miami Heat at home when they're down 4 starters, it pisses you off. Or you lose a game to the Knicks where they're down 4 starters a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, all of those games add up. It's like Jeffrey said, it's hard to be a top 2 seed in the East or Western Conference. Those are reserved for the championship favorites, undoubtedly championship favorites. Mm-hmm. You're going to sit at the 3 seed and you think, well, we're right there with the Bucks, but in the grand scheme of things, in a playoff setting, we are not quite there. But I need people to understand that the NBA is very, very tough. So you, as a fan, you feel a little more pressure every single game, and that's what gets you to say stuff like this on Cavs Encapsulated.
It's just weird because I don't even know how to describe the current landscape of the NBA regular season. I feel like we've harped on it, a little bit more than we even want to as Cavalier fans, because we want to talk about our teams. Because even if you look down here, like this team, Detroit could probably lose 70 games. They probably have, what is this? Yeah, they have 10 games left. They could lose 70 games. They could lose, both of these teams a couple of weeks ago were still in contention. A week ago, we're still in contention to lose 70 games. So is there still teams in tank mode? Obviously, like your Hornets and your bottom three down here. But at the same time, none of these regular season teams, and maybe it's, just personal bias, fan bias, none of these top echelon teams, not saying they're not good, not saying they're not great, not saying that, they don't deserve to be finals contenders. None of these top teams in the league move me like, the middle of the 2010s decades teams did, whether it was the Cavs, whether it was this, the Warriors breaking the regular season record. So it's weird how, I feel like the top of the top is not as elite as even 10 years ago, 8 years ago, almost. You still have your tanking at the bottom, but all these teams grouped up in the middle are like the same to me. Like the Cavs, Knicks, even the Heat and teams down here, the Sixers healthy with Embiid, all the same level of team that could, win a playoff series, make a deep playoff run, at least on paper. We see when it gets around to the postseason. But Justin, throw that same question to you and comment down below. Where do you think we finish, and who do you think we end up playing in the first round playoff series? Justin, want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm something I've never had to do or never wanted to do for the NBA is look at the strength of schedule remaining. But for the first time ever, I have, and the Cavs, out of the 4 teams that are listed, between 3 and 6, have the easiest schedule remaining, followed by the Indiana Pacers and the Orlando Magic being 15 and 16, and then the New York Knicks. So for me, I'm going to go with, we're going to end up at 4. We're going to play the Magic. And my best, I think that's the best case scenario because I don't want to draw the Knicks no matter what.
Absolutely.
I don't want to have to start on the road against any team. So I think getting some guys back, again, you play the Hornets twice in a row. You put the smack on them last night. Hopefully you do the same thing tomorrow night, and you maybe get Max Strus back. Again, I've been pretty vocal about the playoffs are kind of just a reset in terms of I'm the biggest Darius Garland fan, but I'll tell you right now, the dude's been shit. He's been dookie water for a long, long time.
He hasn't been a max player. He hasn't been a max player.
He's really just been his game's it's so off. It's just not what it was 2 years ago. It's not even what it was.
Confidence. It's not
a year ago. And that's, it's very telling. But again, to be we have injuries, and when guys go out, feelings are, not as high or whatever. The Knicks also have, if not more, players that have been out for longer periods of time. Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby, who they traded for in the middle of the season. They have been dealing with a lot, and they're right behind us at 4, probably going to pass us. And my biggest thing is, like Jeff said, Darius Garland got paid to be the second man on this team. He needed to step up in a lot of these games that were close, that were losses, and that were totally within the grasp of a player like Donovan Mitchell. And to have these conversations be the conversations online on the Expert app is to say that the offense runs through a singular player is an indictment on your coach. I don't know how else to put that, in the sense of, if we're just putting all of our eggs in the Donovan Mitchell basket, I'll tell you what, Utah didn't work like that. They never won anything outside of the second round of the playoffs. And actually, I don't think they ever won the second round of the playoffs.
They got to the second round. I don't think,
and they went through Donovan Mitchell, and they had a Rudy Gobert, who is a defensive, player of the year, just like Jared Allen is a candidate for that. And just like Evan Mobley will be a candidate for that. So there's a lot of different issues going on with this team right now. And getting guys back is important, but at the same time, not utilizing the depth that you have with guys like Sam Merrill, guys like Craig Porter Jr., guys like, again, even Tristan Thompson, Marcus Morris Sr. now, they are providing good minutes and stints of hey, we need to get rebounds, or hey, we need a dude to get physical with them. Again, these are things that I just feel we get little pieces of, and we're like, oh man, we need to get more of this. And then the next game, we don't get any of it. And I'm trying to work through that struggle, but at the same time, I just acknowledge that 2 nights ago, we got out-coached, and that's a playoff game. That's a legitimate playoff game, and you just got spanked. And again, whatever, like, I don't understand how people like don't know the difference between excuses and explanations. But when you are constantly having to defend someone when they're losing or they're wrong, those are excuses, like straight up. Don't try to beat around the bush, but explaining them to a point where it's like, hey, if you have all these statistics to say one thing, don't just go and be like, the eye test, because I'm an eye test guy. And guess what? Even I acknowledge the statistics, and the statistics don't lie to you about, hey, this rotation works a lot better than another rotation, or this guy is doing a lot more on the floor than the other. There's a lot that's been going on. I think that 4 is going to be the ending spot. I think the Magic are probably going to be the opponent there, but that's where I'm staying at.
Well, and the disclaimer too, off of the Charlotte game, they did things right there. CPJ got extended minutes and he looked good. Sam Merrill closes it out in the fourth quarter with 3 triples. But that's Charlotte. That's just a random
Charlotte don't mean nothing.
You can
Charlotte
have fun
means
with that
nothing.
Game. But when you talk about the games before that, and that's what we're discussing here, I don't want people in the comments being like, we just beat Charlotte by 19 points. And,
nobody cared.
No.
Nobody cared.
I don't give a crap about last night's game. Am I happy they got back to looking like a semblance of a team that can actually compete in the playoffs? Absolutely.
I'm glad they didn't get jumped in the standings.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad they're clinging on to the 3 seed. But my point is, we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. You got to be playing your best brand of basketball going into the playoffs. I don't think we're ever going to get there because we're not going to get our guys back in time. We're not going to have enough time to develop this and be ready to go. So the playoffs are going to be like hi, we're here. Now what? There's going to be a lot of questions answered. That's all I'm going to say.
And it's one of those things too where you've had injuries all year, and I get they've been different variety and kind, but even with injuries and people in and out of in the lineup, I feel like, and this is to kind of touch on both your guys' points, I feel like this team has closer to 0 identity than closer to 100% identity, regardless of who's on the court. Even your backups who have been healthy all year, your CPJs, your LeVert who's been out there, Jarrett Allen has been healthy for, the entirety of the season. Even people who come off the bench like a Merrill. Like, I feel like, sometimes we have a conceded effort to get him the ball. Sometimes it's kind of like, oh, he missed his first shot. We're basically done looking at him for the rest of the quarter, the possession, the series, of him being out there. But I kind of agree with you guys. I think we go to the 4. Man, I really don't want to say that Orlando leapfrogs both of us, but I could see a Knicks-Cavs rematch. I mean, it'd be good for the league. I mean, you can't say it wouldn't be good for the league, but us being the 4, Magic being the 5, we still get a home series. I think that is honestly best case scenario. I could forgive this play for a small window of time if we end up being the 4 and Orlando ends up being the 5, because I think that's your best matchup. I think that's a better matchup over even Indiana. I think it's a better matchup over Embiid and the Sixers. I definitely think it's a better matchup over Miami and New York. But at the end of the day, and I get it, you have all these, consequential factors, but let me hit a couple of Justin's points here before we go to some tweets over on the X app. If you're going to rock with the team, when we got 4 guys hurt and we win, and all you talk about is we're so deep and this and that and title contender, that's fine. That's fine. But when we lose with 4 guys to a team that, we was similar caliber to a team we just beat without 4 guys, don't tell me that the injuries are starting to pile up. Pick a side, stay on it, pick a side of the fence and stay on it. We'll see you, we could be fans looking across the fence. We'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see, if we're deep, if we're not deep, how we play, if JB's a good coach, if he's going to be the future, whatever. We'll see. We'll just, it'll come down to rhetoric and how we talk. Justin, my favorite point so far of this episode, if you think that the team offense goes through one person, you are being and this is to your point, you are being a lazy fan and you're not covering the team correctly, because I'm old enough to remember less than a year ago when Donovan Mitchell was our best player throughout the whole regular season. You had no secondary pieces. You had no tertiary pieces. You had no role players. And what happened in the postseason? he wasn't very good. What happened when he wasn't very good? You lose 4 out of 5. So, yeah, you're going to need more than Donovan Mitchell to walk through the doors, shot up on cortisone or whatever they gave the guy for a knee injury to save you, because who even knows if he's going to be 100% in, 4 weeks or however long we got until the first round.
New team facility. Hopefully we get a better medical help and responses to our team.
I hate to break it to people. Those renderings look cool. I don't know. We'll see. 2030 might be optimistic. We'll see how long that takes to develop. But, they did post that over on the Cavs social media today. So go check it out. Kind of a player performance facility. It looks interesting. Build up the city, man. I'm on board for building up the city. I mean, you're not going to.
Lots of kayaking.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could do that.
There's a lot of kayaks in that.
You can tell we outsourced the marketing team to somebody who does really not live in Cleveland. Well, at least that's my assumption, because I don't know. Kayaking spots. I like kayaking, but
they got the crew teams down there and whatnot.
Let's switch over. I want to touch on this briefly, then I want to go to predictions. I don't want to be long drawn out. I don't think any of us have the stamina really to come on here and give 45-minute episodes for the rest of the season. But I want to hear your thoughts, because just to give context to our watchers, I run the X-Bird account at Paul's Cleveland. The tweets are a lot from my head. Now, if Logan sends me something or if Justin sends me something, it could be verbatim. I'll copy it and tweet it out, or it could be like, hey, kind of look into this and might be a good tweet. Stuff we've done in the past. I've taken some of their ideas, but most of the stuff is from me. And when I'm just on my phone throughout the day, sometimes it's just, quick hitter stuff. So this is yesterday from Evan Damero. Pretty connected, with the team's got, press passes and, he's in there asking questions, JB and the guys. Got to respect it. But he says, when I asked Cavs head coach JB Bickerstaff about where Max Strus is at, and I got a pretty simple answer. He's doing good and heading in the right direction. Okay. To start, I don't think that isn't the question I would be asking. I would be saying if there was a date for return, but, I guess I haven't been following JB's press conferences after, for the last 3 or 4 years to, being in the room all the time. I respond, timetables for injured players returning would be nice, considering people who haven't played in weeks randomly show up on the injury report as questionable or game time decisions. Now, you might be thinking that's harsh, but this tweet was yesterday. And JB said he's doing good and heading in the right direction. Max Strus is officially listed as questionable for tomorrow. Yeah. So you're telling me that the head coach couldn't even give you a hint that he might be ready for not? So this was pre the first Hornets game. He couldn't even tell you, yeah, he could be ready for the second Hornets game in Charlotte. Okay, no worries. Hold on. Let me back this out. Evan quote tweets my tweet. JB Bickerstaff has made it explicitly clear throughout his Cavs tenure. He must not be making it clear enough, because I don't think a lot of fans know about this. I didn't know about this. I'll gather your guys' thoughts here shortly. During his Cavs tenure, that he'll never publicly put a timetable for a player's return to the court because he doesn't want there to be public pressure expectations for said player. Pause, because I heard 6 to 8 weeks for Mobley and I heard 6 to 8 weeks for Garland. Maybe he didn't give those timetables. I don't know where the info came from, but that's what I like to call a timetable. He's always putting our players first. And this is the last tweet I'm going to read before I go to you guys. I respond, I wonder if he would keep this rule in the postseason. If someone gets hurt / remains hurt in the playoffs, it's good to know that the fans of the team would have no idea if that player is going to return during that series. I think this would be a good question for JB. Before I get off my soapbox here, because I want to hear your guys' thoughts. It's a private organization. JB is employed by the Cleveland Cavaliers. The players are employed by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the organization. Dan Gilbert's the owner. They could not tell us anything. And I totally agree with that. That is their right, and that is their rule. They have to follow NBA rules, injury reports, if they're putting out starting lineups, whatever rules they have to follow through the NBA, being a part of the association. With that being said, I think it's absolutely criminal that you cannot have a little bit more transparency with your fan base when prices for tickets are through the roof, as they should be. We're a competitive team in the East. If you go to a ball game, you're spending money on food, you're spending money on parking, you're spending money on drinks. And if you don't do any of that, it's not an enjoyable time. You can go down there and spend money on nothing, spending money on jerseys, spending money on hoodies, we're spending money on hats, we're spending money on merch. And you're telling me, oh, we're doing this to protect the players. Well, the players' game check every 2 weeks, is in 7-figure numbers. So I think they're protected pretty much all right. That's my 2 cents. I know it was a big rant. Justin, break it down for us.
Well, Jeff, we've been covering more than just the Cavs for a couple of years here, and I think that it's been a regular occurrence that you and I have gotten on here talking Browns, talking Cavs, and have literally been told about an injury that's happened in practice or something like that. I remember Grant Delpit, was carted off the field, I think 2-3 years ago with a calf injury, and everyone says like, "Oh man, like the fear is this." But then we will not get an update for over a week about what the actual injury is, like what the timetable for return is. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't understand this idea of like, I don't want to put expectations or like pressure on our players. Again, these guys are professional athletes. They listen to their bodies. And if they're telling you, hey, I'm questionable for 2 games from now or whatever. Okay. Like, do you think people are going to get on Twitter and the Expert app and, go and just be like, hey, Max, you're playing today? Or being like, Max, and again,
And
I guess
also,
there's a lot of people.
If that's your concern, that makes it even worse if that's what you're concerned about.
And I know that there are the people out there that like do that. Like there's a lot of just weird accounts out there with other people's faces, like professional athletes as their profile picture. But again, it's one of those things where like, for me, I don't, like, again, I watch the games, I look at the injury reports, and that's about it. If a guy is questionable, I'm okay. I'm like, okay, he's 50-50 to play. If he's not playing, am I like losing my mind and like going on Twitter and having a rant about it? No, I'm like, darn, wish we could have had him for this game. Probably needed him for this game. It's not one of these things where it's like, the extremist idea here is like, what pressure? What's the pressure that they're getting that they are going to come back and play the game that they're being paid to play? Like, okay, if I go and I break my ankle and the doctor tells me, hey, this is going to take you 6 to 9 months to recover, I'm going to go and tell my boss, hey, they told me it's going to take 6 to 9 months to recover, and then in 6 months probably check back in and be like, oh, hey, you're looking pretty good, maybe 1 more month and you'll be good. Okay, again, like what's wrong with that kind of transparency and trying to be like, hey, we're just trying to give you updates. The Nick Chubb updates that I've been getting are way better than anything I've seen in the last 4 years for the Browns. And, thank God he's one of our star players. I'd hope that we get these kind of updates on guys like that. And again, we get the small little like weird updates now with the Cavs where Donovan Mitchell goes out with a knee injury. And then a week later, he's getting like a cortisone shot for the same injury. And we're like, well, like, why? What happened? What progressed? What made it go from this thing that he's resting to this thing that now he's getting like a cortisone shot for, And it adds all these questions where I think that's my biggest issue is like when you don't get transparency right away and then you add to it, it just makes for more of that kind of like animosity of like, well, what's really going on here? And that's just how I feel about it. And that's how I felt about it with not just the Cavs, with the Browns.
Absolutely. Logan?
So here's my thing. I'm all for protecting players. I think, though, that's I think the line Evan uses there, I think it's like saying too much to me. Like, I don't think it's that deep. My point is if a guy misses 6 to 8 weeks, and he comes back for his first game, you know what my expectation is? He's going to be rusty. He probably need 5 to 10 games to get back where he is.
And he's on a minutes restriction. Yep.
So similar to what Justin was saying, but a different point, I don't get the pressure. Like, sure, maybe Justin's being a quote-unquote ass and a mean person by saying you need to come back and play the game you get paid to play. Yeah, that's a harsh way of looking at it. My point is simply, as a fan, I'm preparing for you to not be all that great when you return from injury. I would just like to know where you're at, man. I would just like to know roughly when can we expect you? Because, and I'm telling you, when the Cavaliers are playing basketball like they're playing right now, those questions become far more urgent. I got to know some answers. Are we ever going to see this team at full strength? Probably not. I've drawn my own conclusion because I'm not getting a conclusion from the team. So I'm not sitting here and saying that we should be tapping JB Bickerstaff and like, tell us. I'm just saying, man, just like tell me. Like, I would have been better off if you would have just said, yeah, Max is progressing well, but we don't want to rush it back. We're hoping he'll be back in a couple of games or something like that. Just like I'm not even asking for like a straight up answer. Like he's going to play today, he's going to play then. There's no pressure. I expect that player to struggle out of the gate. That's okay. I just want to know some information.
I still, for the period of time that Dean Wade has been out, I was under the impression that he was just out because he just had a newborn.
Yes, but it was personal. Now he has a knee injury.
Yes.
What was up with that? He's listed as a knee.
And that's what I'm trying to get at.
At least they flexed Mitchell's injury over. He's listed as nasal fracture. Like, I understand his knee probably isn't 100%, but that's my point, Justin. How do you go from personal and personal could be the sensitivity
that it was his kid.
Well, we never even heard. That don't matter to me. It don't matter. Death in the family, whatever, sister's wedding, new father. It don't matter to me what your personal is, especially in the regular season. Don't really matter. But when now you randomly show he just has never had phantom knee injury. What, did he get hurt on paternity leave? Like, this is all my questions. But my thing is, like, I just think as someone who, and I think, and let's take it to the degrees of difference, like being in a management role, like when my 9 to 5, what I do for 40, 50 hours a week is a management role, I have found no success. Well, maybe not no success, but I have found a lot less success in telling people 25%, 30%, 50% of the truth. When I first started, I used to do that. I would be like, hey, maybe they don't want to hear the whole truth, whatever their reaction, this and that. When I started giving people 100% of the truth, they respected me more. They could temper their expectations, and they knew how to come to work and perform their job roles and expectations at a higher and better level. When you come to the podium as the head coach and you say, oh, we don't really give timetables, this and that, you wonder why the fan base is antsy, why they want coaches fired, why they want front offices, completely swept from head to toe. Oh, that's the Cleveland fans are the worst, they're their own worst enemy. How many times have we heard that in the last 25 years of our lives? Oh, they're the worst, our own worst enemy. We want to get rid of people, in 2 years, in 2 seasons, in 3 years. That's why we have all these rebuilds. We're in a constant rebuild. Well, yeah, if you don't give us expectations as what to expect, like Logan said, we have to make our own expectations. And then when we don't really know what's going on, we feel like we're in the dark as fans. Hey, the people that keep your team running, the people that buy season tickets, the people that watch and pay $15 a month for stupid ass value sports, it doesn't work. Yeah, it gets a little bit, I think it's a little bit disrespectful to the fans. And like I said, private organization, private team, they could tell us absolutely nothing. We would have no recourse, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But just something that, kind of just rubbed me the wrong way this week. But something else that rubbed me the wrong way this week was losing 3 out of the last 4. I already preloaded these in here because I was just ready to go. Cavs tomorrow at Charlotte. I think we're going to beat the 76ers. I know I'm going to eat my words there, but they played us so good all year. I think we get their number this time. And then we're going to lose to the Nuggets. Actually going to win 2 out of 3, and that would be 3 out of our last 4. Turn it around just a little bit.
Yeah.
Wrapping up the season.
The small improvements. Yeah, copy and paste for me too. I know it's not exciting, but that is the right answer to me.
No movement in our standings for the remainder of the season. We're just all going to be the same now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much locked up. Jeffrey's going to have this unless he really blows it. I'm just trying to speak into existence. He's got this, guys. He's got it on lock.
You think?
There's only so many games left, and I don't think there's going to be too many differences between us on all of them, personally.
Like I said, at the end of the day, we're ginormous Cavs fans, and honestly, the reason we get so upset is probably because we care a little bit too much about a child's game that adults play.
That's what we do for fun, though.
But that's
you could see how Jeff and I are with the Browns, though, and for the last 3 years before the last season, where it's like they continue to like just be bad, and they're not held accountable in the standard of like every year. Everyone's just like, oh, there's always next year. And that's not like a mentality that I want to live by. I refuse to live by the mentality of there's always next year. There's always next year. Because guess what? That's never the truth. And it never changes. If
progression's not linear.
If revolving doors happen, yeah, guess what? You're never going to build anything. But at the same time, if you do not take into account what is going on with your front office, what is going on with your coaching, and what the limitations are from those and your players, if you cannot assess those limitations without taking like feelings out of it and being like, all right, it's a business, guys. Unfortunately, yeah. Do I love Darius Garland? 1,000%. Has he played to a standard in the last year that I think is acceptable? Absolutely not. And if they think they can go out and keep Donovan Mitchell, who's an MVP, guess what? Darius Garland is second to the team winning right now. And it's very much one of those things that I will improve the roster regardless of my feelings. And that's just the facts.
It's true. It's true.
We did it 2 years ago with Donovan Mitchell. And again, I had to make a whole tweet about someone saying, "Oh, we need a Colin Sexton energy." Like, Colin Sexton is doing exactly what he did back with the Utah Jazz as he did here in Cleveland. And again, Utah has some good players over there, but look at the plus minus. It's like an actual indicative stat that I've gotten from Jeff now. Darius Garland, a plus player, not a very good plus player this season, but a plus player since Colin Sexton has left. Colin Sexton, minus player his entire career.
Doesn't contribute.
Look, and let me just say this. It's not indicative of wins and losses. Go look up Lauri Markkanen's plus minus, and he's a plus player.
Fair enough.
On a losing team.
I mean, Colin Sexton has never contributed to any sort of sustainable winning in his NBA career. I don't know why people think that that's like some sort of controversial
But we desperately need his energy, Jeff, apparently. Desperately need him. I don't think Marcus Morris would have been any better.
I agree. I agree with your plights. I mean, as the first guy who wanted to ship Sexton out of town, I mean, it's not that I don't think he's a good basketball player. It's just that there's a difference between
being good and winning.
Being good and winning. Wow, that's a big fact. So
I'm just gonna sit down here and let them.
I guess what
I'm going off. Justin's going off.
I don't love LeBron. Here. Dude's a winner though. Dude will make the play-ins and probably get his team to the playoffs. And again,
I love LeBron.
You're
gonna bet against LeBron in a winner go home situation. I mean, maybe depending on the scenario, but probably not a play-in.
No,
yeah, who would you rather have on your team when push came to shove? And I get it. Has Donovan Mitchell been some exquisite playoff winner? No one's saying that. But does he give you a better chance to win a playoff series than Colin Sexton? That's been obvious from the jump. Why do we got to say obvious shit?
I saw someone say that Colin Sexton's been playing better than Darius Garland. I was like, yeah, he's been losing games still. He's still not in the playoffs. But not even in the play-ins.
I don't really see how that was the issue.
They were doing so good at one point with him being in the rotation.
Typical. That's your favorite team in the league, Justin. The team that starts good the first 30 games and then they fall off the map.
Orlando proved me wrong, but hey, we'll see how they do in the playoffs.
Hey, man, it's all going to come down to who can, play the best basketball in the postseason. But if you don't make it to the postseason, kind of tough to state your claim. But with that being said, 10 games left. Hornets, 76ers, Nuggets, Jazz, Suns, Lakers, Clippers, Grizzlies, Pacers, and then the Hornets again. Last game of the year is a 1 p.m. start on April 14th. I'm assuming.
Yeah, we have a Western. Yeah, and you mentioned all those names. Those are all road games, guys. That's a
yes. We still have a Western Conference trip to go
right now. Yep. But I will say it is an opportunity for the Cavaliers to take on some tough games like that on a rest trip. If you can go 3-2 in those 5, I'm so happy. And that'll be huge to go into the playoffs. I think opportunity's still at knocking. Cavaliers got to open the door. They have 10 games to do it.
I got to have everyone back by that April 10th. That last 3 games is huge.
Especially at home. Yes, that's a great point, Justin. If you could have everyone back by at least the 10th or the 12th to play 2 regular season games at the Rock, that is a really good point. Shout out to that point for sure. Honestly, we'll end it on that. But, we predicted 3 games this week. We got 7 left after that. So only a couple more episodes left to Cavs Encapsulated, guys. If you enjoyed this, like button down below, comment. What do you think our record's going to be the next 3? How do you feel about the injury transparency, however you want to quantify that? And it's been a good episode. I think we had some fiery takes here. Get a little bit on the rowdy side. Logan hanging out down below. Keeps us nice and calm and tranquil. But with that all being said, we'll see you guys next week. We appreciate you being the pulse of it all.